Hey guys, it's Monday morning when I'm recording this. I spent all day yesterday at a local craft fair, so I end up spending the day talking a lot to people who either don't know anything about knife making or who are just starting into it and are really wanting to get involved more. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, what tools do I need to start making knives? That's a tough one because I can tell you a couple $100 or I can tell you $100,000 worth of tools real quick. So what I tend to tell people is you can start with just about anything, but there are really 4 transformational tools that change how you make knives. I'm sure a lot of people will say, well, there's other things in there that are a mix. You need this, you need that, or this is what really makes a big deal. But I wanted to just take a quick moment and show you the 4 tools that will change your knife making as you progress. So I'm going to turn the camera around, I'm going to walk through, show all 4 of them, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we'll just start on my right here to the first one, which is kind of the most obvious one, the 2x72 belt grinder. There are a bunch of really great manufacturers, so I'm not going to recommend a brand. Obviously, mine is homemade, loosely based on the no-weld grinder that USA Knife Maker sells plans for. Good starting machine plan. A couple of things that I think any 2x72 belt grinder will need is you need some type, some type of contact wheel, some flat platen. You will need some way of variable speed, either a VFD, variable frequency drive, or step pulleys, and you will need a small wheel attachment. If there's other attachments, everything from surface grinding attachments to waterfall platens to rotary platens, there's all kinds of things. Really, these are the 4 things that if you have this, you can make pretty much anything you want to. Quick note on belt storage. As you can see, I keep a 36 and a 60 grit right there that I just grab whenever I'm going to need to do some rough grinding or touching up stuff, billet prep, something like that. Otherwise, I really don't like having belts hanging. I find that they last longer if they're stored better. These containers, they're just little shoebox containers. They'll hold 5 heavyweight belts or 10 J-Flex belts, no problem. I've got belts out from 36 grit over to 800 up to 2000 for sharpening. And then I've got cork belts for polishing and 3 different surface conditioning or Scotch-Brite belts. So those will cover any grinding I'm going to do. If you move over next, past the forge, the second big transformational tool is something to move metal faster than you can move it. It can be a press, it can be a power hammer. It can be, those are the 2 biggies. There's some other things, rolling mills and stuff like that, if you need that, you're way beyond, beginning knife making. Just for me, for my situation where I do individual knives, do small billets of Damascus and Sanmai, a press made more sense than a power hammer, just because, if you look out that window, on the other side of that tree line is a neighbor. Power hammers are a lot louder than presses. They rattle things. Some guys will tell you about if you don't have a well-mounted heavy power hammer, you're going to crack windows down the block. This is one of the Coal Iron Works 12-ton power presses. Runs on 110 volts. I've used it for a couple of years now. Never had a problem with it. Flat dies are on the press right now. I also have squaring dies for canister, rounding dies for breaking down stock quicker, and a punch die that I use every once in a while for tooling or hawks, hammers, things like that. The third tool, some method of heat treating better, controlling the temperature. This is my Even Heat, another 110 volt, 18-inch machine. Basic controller. If I did it again, I would probably buy the more advanced controller, but this works really well for what I do. I don't do stainless very often. So for heat treating carbon steel, Damascus, Sanmai, stuff like that, it works wonderful. I can anneal, I can normalize, I can harden, I can temper. Works really well. Never had a problem with it. I think I've replaced a thermocouple once, and that's been the grand total of my maintenance on this thing in probably 4 or 5 years. The 4th tool on my workbench is a milling machine. I don't care how big it is, how small it is, but some actual mill. This is the Grizzly drill mill, mini milling machine, whatever they call it. Again, another machine I've had for about 5 years. Literally, probably every knife I have ever made since I've bought this thing has had this used on it. I can't say that for every other knife. I've made some knives excuse me, where I've hardened and quenched in the forge. I've made some knives where I forged by hand, didn't use the press. I've even made a couple of knives that I didn't do the grinder on. This pretty much has drilled every hole, has done every guard slot, every bolster flattening. I use it to square up handle material, drill and mill out the handles. Once you have a mill, you will wonder how you ever did something without it. So that's the 4 tools I'm going to say will change how you make knives once you get them or upgrade to them. I'm not going to recommend a specific brand. There's all kinds of brands. Some of them are really great, some of them not so much. But if you look around and look for reviews, you'll pretty much see honest reviews on most of the equipment. And you can tell really easily which is who have makers who have used these and which are fanboys who are just saying, oh, I like these. Look for an honest review. Most of these tools you can make yourself if you're good at fabrication. Obviously, I made my own grinder. Plenty of tutorials and videos on people making their own press. I've seen people making heat treating ovens. Never seen anybody make a mill. I'm sure it's been done, but I don't see a point in that. You probably spend more time doing it than it would cost to make it, or than it would cost to buy it. I mean, if you have any questions or if you think of something that I should add to the mix, feel free to put a comment below. Love to hear from you. Thanks for listening. Bye.